Let's bring in Caroline Sunshine, former Trump campaign deputy communications director, and Jose Aristimuño, former DNC press secretary. Happy New Year to both of you.
Happy New Year.
All right, let's start with the New York Post headline, because we always love them. Out with the old, in with the dues. Analysts say Zoran will raise everyone's taxes. Meanwhile, New York Republican Congressman Mike Lawler says Zoran Mamdani is the face of the party. Let's play it. I'll get you to react.
He is now the face of the Democratic Party effective midnight tonight. And I think he's going to do everything in his power, not only to advance his agenda, but to hold Kathy Hochul, hold Chuck Schumer, hold Hakeem Jeffries hostage, frankly, and move them further to the left.
Jose, what are your expectations as the Mamdani administration launches?
Look, I wish the mayor well. We all want him to do well, because if he does well, you know, New York does well. But he's not the face of the party. That's just not true. If you look at governor races that we won, and other mayoral races in Miami, for example, the races in Virginia and New Jersey, where center Democrats ran and they won on the economy, on affordability, you name it. So we are the Big Ten party. So he is a Democrat after all. I think, and I'm hopeful, that he will come to the center now that he's got to execute on obviously a bunch of issues. I don't agree with him on a lot of his politics, but I wish him well, and I think he'll be more moderate as the year goes on.
New York City, obviously a huge media capital. Caroline, what about the spotlight on Mamdani and his impact?
Yeah, Jose, I would just also push back on that and say, you know, Mamdani just appointed a chief of the fire department of the FDNY who's never been a firefighter before. And it's very clear that person was just appointed for identity politics. So I would just push back on the moderate criticism. Look, Zoran Mamdani's election was not just a political win for him. I want to be really clear. It was also a political win for AOC. I want everyone to take notice. It's not just Letitia James, who is here at Zoran Mamdani's swearing in. The speaker who is introducing him, or who was introducing him, first speaker, was AOC herself. And I say that because I want people to see where the political tides in this country could be heading, and that Zoran Mamdani's election in New York City, and also the way that he governs, is maybe going to be indicative of how 2026 and 2028 could go for Democrats. One of two things is going to happen here politically with Mamdani. Again, his election was a political boon for AOC. It's very clear that the future of politics in this country is left-wing economic populism versus right-wing economic populism. President Trump proved that with his win in 2024, where he didn't just defeat Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, he also defeated the other wings of his party. Zoran Mamdani has pulled off something similar here in New York City in his own way. But he's going to govern one of two ways. He's going to either be more establishment than he lets on to. You can see that with some of the appointees that he's made with former Bill de Blasio picks staffing his administration, or he's going to go extremely left. And you see that with some of his other picks, people whose past comments, you know, support killing cops, people who have clearly been selected for the identity politics aspect of the job.
All right, from the DNC War Room on 2025 elections, quote, in 2025 alone, Democrats won or overperformed in 227 out of 255 key elections. Nearly 90% of races across red, purple, and blue states, Democrats have gotten off the mat and proven that when you organize everywhere, you can win anywhere in every part of the country. Yet polling from Quinnipiac shows only 18% of voters approve of the job that congressional Democrats are doing. Jose, what are your takeaways from this research?
Yeah, look, it's concerning. There's no question that when we go to the middle, we win, and we win big. We've seen it in the last couple of elections, but obviously we now got to execute on those elections. It's not enough to win votes. You now got to run the country, run the states, you name it. I do think after the 2024 election, Mike, we had a branding problem, and we're still going in, doing some self-reflection as a party of where we're heading. I know Republicans are really wishing that we go more left. I think we're going more moderate and more to the middle, and we're going to continue winning come the midterm elections.
Caroline, very quick final word.
No, that ground is absolutely held by Donald Trump and his policies. The biggest problem economically in the country is the gap between haves and have-nots is getting too big. Democrats don't have an answer for that, but you look at President Trump's policies with Trump's savings accounts, his tax cuts, no tax on tips, those kinds of policies are what close that and what win elections in 2026 and beyond.
All right, we will follow it. Caroline, Jose, thanks very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.